Hello, my CFA friends. How are you, my friends? So welcome to the second module on loops in Python. In the first module, we looked at the for loop. In today's module, we're going to look at the other main loop, which is the while loop. So I'm going to show you some very basic while loop examples just to warm up. And then we will finish the video with our second big challenge, big coding challenge, which is the number guessing game. So I hope you are as excited about this challenge as I am. But let's get started with the warm-up challenges. Our first challenge is to build a very simple program that keeps asking me my name, and if I give an incorrect name, it will just prompt me to try again until I give it the correct name, at which point it greets me. So let's get started. I guess we'll need a variable here, which we will call name, and we will initialize this as an empty string. And now enter the while loop. So while should be followed by some kind of expression, a Boolean expression that evaluates to either true or false. And essentially, we will enter and stay within the loop while that expression is true. So there are a couple of ways in which we can achieve what we are trying to do here. But for now, I'm just going to say while name is not equal. So pause the video and think about the comparisons operator. How would you express not equal in Python? Hopefully you are thinking exclamation equals. So while name is not equal to Martin, and of course we need the famous colon here with an indent. So if the name is not equal to Martin, then what should we be doing? We should basically be prompting the user to input a name. So here I'm going to have to introduce yet another function that we haven't seen on the course yet. So I will be introducing the input function. So the way the input function works, it's going to, as I said, ask the user to input something. In our case, we will be asking the question, what is your name, question mark. And of course, the user will provide an answer, and we need to store that answer in our name variable. So that's why we will assign the name variable to whatever the user wants us to input. Now, if the name is not equal to Martin, then what we will want to print to the user is maybe something like try again. And if, of course, the name becomes equal to Martin, then we will no longer be in the loop, at which point we are able to exit the loop and maybe print something like, hello, Martin. Okay, so let's see if this is going to work. So let's expand a little bit here. Shift F10. What is your name? Let's try John. Try again. What is your name? Let's try Peter. And then try again. What is your name? Let's try Martin now. And it says, hello, Martin. So it worked. Now, there are many roads that lead to Rome, so to speak. So this is not the only way you can achieve this. So we can also achieve it via what's known as a while true loop. So remember, the second bit here after the while has to be a Boolean expression that will evaluate to either true or false. Well, true is always true. So a while true loop is a permanent loop. So we are going to actually stay within the loop forever unless we use something like a break statement, which we covered in a prior video. So let's see how we could use this, so to speak, eternal loop to do the same job. So again, name is input, what is your name? That's not going to change. But this time we're going to say if name is actually equal to Martin, And instead of print try again, we are going to break out of the loop. So once we break out of the loop, we will end up at line 11, printing hello Martin. And here, if the name is not equal to Martin, we're going to have an else statement where we're going to print try again. And because the name is not going to be equal to Martin, and because this is a permanent loop, it will keep repeating, keep prompting us for our name until we get our name right, at which point we will break out of the loop. So hopefully that's going to work, but let's give it a try. So what is your name? Again, let's try Roy. Okay, what is your name? Let's try James. And then what is your name? Martin. And again, we agreed the user and exit the loop. Next, we're going to do pretty much the same thing, but we are going to use a number example because I want to show you how it's going to be slightly different when it's not a string, but it's a number. And also it's going to help us prepare for the number guessing game that we have to do a little bit later. So here we need to initialize two variables. The first one is the number to guess. Okay, let's say that the computer has the number 5 in mind. And then, of course, we will also need a user guess. So that is your guess. Now, if that was a string, I would initialize it as an empty string. But because this is going to be ultimately an integer, I'm going to initialize it with the special word none. Okay, so none is different from 0. You typically are going to want to initialize this integer as none. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go with my while loop, and I will simply say while the user guess is not equal to the number to guess. And of course, none is not equal to 5. So we are going to enter our loop, at which point we want to collect the user guess. So user guess equals, so it's assigned to the input function where we are going to prompt the user to guess my number, right? Guess my number. So I'm going to have to put in a number and of course, I will stay in the loop for as long as the user hasn't guessed my number. But once we exit the loop, because the user has guessed the number, I can then print, you guessed my number. Now, it looks like this is going to work, right? But unfortunately, it's not going to work. And let me show you, first of all, why it's not going to work. So if I run this program, the computer says, guess my number. I know I should guess a 5, but let's try and guess a 4. Okay, well, guess my number. Again, it asks me to guess. Let's guess 8. And now, let's say we are ready to guess correctly. We press 5. We think that this is going to exit the loop, but unfortunately, it doesn't. Okay, and if I stop the program, you can actually see here that there are some issues, I guess, some errors. But what is happening here? Now, this is quite important, guys. When you're using the input function to collect an input from your user, the actual result of that function is always a string value. Whereas what we want is we want the user guess to be an integer value, which we are going to compare to the number to guess, which is an integer value. So here I want to introduce another concept, which is the programming concept of casting. So you've got right now here, you're going to have, let's say, the string 5. So if I input 5, that's going to be considered the string by the computer. I want to cast that into an integer, so I can use the int function. So I'm going to enclose everything here in a bracket, and the int function will convert the string 5 into the integer 5. And hopefully now with this little correction, my program should work, but let's see. So guess my number, I'm going to try 3. Guess my number, I'm going to try 9. Guess my number, I'm going to try 5. And now it says, you guessed my number. Okay, and now the most exciting part. This is a big challenge that's going to take us a little bit of time to plow through. And of course, I am expecting that you guys are going to pause the video, give yourself half an hour, whatever time you need to try and solve this challenge. I'm going to show you the end product of what I want to achieve. So I've run the program here. You can see at the top it says 65. That's because ultimately I'll remove that number. But for now, I want to see what the computer wants me to guess. Obviously, I won't be reveal that to the end user. This is purely for debugging purposes, so I can see that the computer is thinking of the number 65. So firstly, I want the computer to say, welcome to the number guessing game. I am thinking of a number between 1 and 100. So this is going to be random. And little hint here, we haven't covered that. But if you're trying this exercise on your own, you should, give you a little spoiler, you should import a special Python module called random. And so you can do a little bit of Googling to see how you can import, first of all, the random module, and second of all, which function within the module you're going to need to generate a random number between 1 and 100. And then it says you have 5 tries to guess my number. So let's pretend we don't know that the number is 65. So we're going to guess 10. And it says your guess is too low. Well, 10 is less than 65, so it is too low. And now you have 4 tries remaining. So notice here the counter has declined by 1. And now let's try 80. And my guess is now too high because I should have guessed 65. Now you have 3 tries remaining. And maybe I try 60. And your guess is too low. You have 2 tries remaining. But now I try 65. And then it says, well done, you guessed my number in 4 tries. And yes, 1, 2, 3, 4 tries. That's the answer. Now, I could also run it one more time. And let's now not guess. So 10, 15, 20, 25. Now I have 1 guess remaining. And let's say I go for 100, which is too high. And now it says, your guess is too high. You ran out of guesses. And the game ends. So you can see, pretty fun game. You actually have all the tools in your toolbox to build it yourself. You don't need me now, my friends. So I want you to sit down, do your research, Google, find anything that you need for this project. I think main thing would be the random module. Everything else we've covered. And then get started. And when you are ready, I want you to unpause the video. I want you to see how I solve this project. Okay, I hope you gave this challenge a good go. So hopefully you discovered that you can import the random module with the keyword import. And then the module is called random. So we're going to use it to generate a random number. Now, we're going to need to initialize some variables here for our project. So, of course, we're going to have a user guess. And remember, that's going to be an integer. But right now, we don't have anything, so we can assign it the value of none. Now, also, we will need to keep track of how many times the user has guessed. Remember that at the end of the challenge, we will say you guessed the number in 4 tries. So we need something like a guess count. And that, of course, will start at 0 because we haven't guessed anything. We'll need a variable max guess count, which will keep track of our maximum guesses before we lose the game. Let's say that is 5. We need a lower number for our guess. So what should be the lowest number the computer will guess? And let's say that's 1. We will need a higher number, and that could be equal to 100. So the first thing that I want to do is just get the computer to generate a random number, I guess. So I'm going to print this random number. And how would I achieve that? Well, I'm going to use the random module. So I'm going to write random dot. And here you can see it actually suggests the correct solution. It's rand int. So it's going to give me a random integer. So if I go with that, open brackets, and here I have to give it the lower number. Okay, well, I've got a variable for that. And then I have to give it the higher number. And these are inclusive. So if you run that, it should be giving you a number between 1 and 100 inclusive. We can actually already run that here and see what happens. So I run it, I get a 6, I get a 51. Again, it works. And if I try it long enough, it will give me a 1 and 100 eventually as well. Next, we need to welcome our user. So we're going to use a print statement. But this time, I'm going to teach you what's known as an F string or formatted string, which actually allows us to concatenate string with the actual variables that are in our model. So the way you're going to open an F string is you're going to type the letter F, and then you're going to create the speech marks as usual. So we're going to write welcome to our number guessing game. And because this is going to be quite a long sentence, I want to tell Python that now I want to move to the next line. So whatever comes next should be on the following line. And there's a special way of telling this to Python, which is the forward slash, or this is actually the backward slash n. So that tells Python that whatever comes next should go on the following line. Next, I want to say I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 100. So let's do this. I am thinking of a number between. And now, if I actually write one that's hard-coded, that's a string literal, that's never going to change in my model. I don't want that value to be always 1 because I might change the rules of the game later. So here, whenever you've got this F string at the start, you can use curly brackets in order to insert the variable within your string. So I'm thinking of a number between the lower number and the higher number. So again, I've got curly brackets here, and I can write the higher number, full stop. Now, after this, I probably also want a new line, so \n. And then I want to finish this by saying you have 5 tries to guess my number. So you have, and now 5 should not be hard-coded. It should come from the variable in our model. So curly brackets again, max guess count. Remember, that will actually be equal to 5 in our model. So you have 5 tries to guess my number. Okay, so quite a long thing. Let's just review it one more time before we run it. So let's have a look. F string, so we're using a print statement, but then we are opening an F string with the letter F and the speech mark. Anything in green is, of course, a string. The /n creates a new line. I'm thinking of a number between, and then I get the variables. So the variables need to be in curly brackets, so between 1 and 100. Then I've got a new line again, and you have 5 tries to guess my number. So let's see how that looks when we run it, and let's see what happened if we expand. So the computer says that it's thinking about the number 28. Of course, we don't know this as the end user. Welcome to our number guessing game. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 100. Notice here that 1 and 100 are dynamic, so I can change the variable values, and this will change within the text, and you have 5 tries to guess my number. Now, you guessed it, we're in the topic of loops, so we're going to use a while loop here to complete the challenge. So we're going to say that while the guess count is lower than the max guess count, so basically As long as we haven't really lost the game, we can say that the user guess is going to be equal to an input function, and here we could prompt the user to guess our number. Now I'm seeing a little problem here. It's highlighting user guess and it's saying that redeclared user guess defined above without usage. So the reason why that's happening is because we're actually defining user guess within the loop and also defining it outside of the loop. So Python is starting to get a bit confused. So I don't think I actually need it outside of the loop. So let's remove the definition from the outside of the loop. So what I'm going to say here is simply give me a user guess. And of course, I'm asking the user to input something. And remember, that's going to be a string. So I need to cast it into an integer. Okay, and that should hopefully provide my user guess. So let me just run it and see what happens. So I've got 5 tries to guess my number. And obviously, it's asking it to guess a number. So I can type in 7. And of course, nothing happens here because we don't have any other logic. But the computer has certainly asked us to input something. Next, obviously, after the user has input a number, I need to take that into account within my guess count. So my guess count started at 0. So I will say guess count equals guess count plus 1. So I'm increasing it by 1. But remember, we already covered this. We don't want to repeat the word guess count twice. So what we could say is plus equals 1. And so that's going to take care of increasing the guess count. Now, what I want to do next is I want to check if the user has actually won the game. So if user guess, which is now an integer because I cast it into an integer, if user guess is equal to the random number, and of course, here I've just realized I don't have that defined yet. So let's go here and say rand number equals, and we can take all that stuff here within the print statement, put it here. So now we are defining the random number, and then we can keep printing the random number because, of course, we need to know what the computer is thinking. So if user guess is equal to random number, then what should happen? Well, I need to know that the user has won the game, and I don't have the mechanic right now to know that the user has won the game. So I want to probably have another variable, and that's probably not the only way you can solve the challenge, but that's how I want to solve it. So I can say is guessed, which will be a Boolean variable, keeping track of whether we won the game or lost the game. So is guessed will be false if we haven't guessed the number, and it will be true if we have guessed the number. We will initialize it as false because at the start of the game, we haven't guessed the number yet. But if user guess is the random guess, is the random number, so if we've guessed correctly, I am going to want to set is guessed to the value of true. Notice that 1 equals sign is an assignment operator. So I'm now switching that Boolean flag from the value of false to the value of true. And now I know that I've won the game. And if I have won the game, I don't need to be in the while loop anymore. I want to break from that while loop and basically ultimately print, congratulations, you've guessed my number in X number of tries. Now, of course, it's entirely possible that the user hasn't guessed the number. So we're going to have an elif here, and we can say if the user guess was actually lower than the random number, then we probably need to print something to the user. So we could say something like your guess is too low. Okay, user guess is below random number. Yes, your guess is too low. And so there's only one real option remaining. So it was either equal or less than. And so the final one should be an else statement. So if it's not equal, if it's not less, then it must be greater than. So I could just take that print statement here, copy it, and say too high. All right, we're almost done here. So let's go out of the while loop now. So we need to align with the while loop. That means we're outside of it. And here we're going to run another if statement, and it's going to be on the Boolean flag is a guessed. So remember here, we don't have to say is guessed equals true. Is guessed evaluates to true. So as long as it is true, what should we do? Well, as long as it is true, it means we won the game. So we could print something like, well done. You guessed my number in several tries here. So obviously I want to bring in a variable. So this isn't going to work without an F string. So I'm going to put an F here. Well done. You guessed my number. I'm going to need curly brackets. I'm going to need the variable guess count. And so in 5 tries, let's say. And that's the statement that I should print if the user won the game. Otherwise, the user must have lost the game, because remember, the Boolean flag started as false. So if we never guess the number, it will continue being false. So I will have lost the game. So here I can print something like, sorry, you ran out of guesses. Okay. And so that basically means that he lost the game. Okay, let's give this a try. I think we're going to need to polish it a little bit. You will see why. But let's give it a try. So the number that I'm trying to guess is 6. And it says you have 5 tries to guess my number. Okay, let's try 1. And it says your guess is too low. Actually, here, I want to also say your guess is too low. You have X many tries remaining. So there's a problem that I need to fix next. So the way I'm going to fix this is, remember that if I guess the number, I'll break out of the loop altogether. Otherwise, I will carry on working my way down the loop. So after the if statement, I should probably have a print statement, which is an F string. And we could say you have how many tries remaining? Well, it's going to be the max guess count. So I started with 5. Take away the guess count. So obviously anything you've already tried must be subtracted. And that will be, you have, let's say, 3 tries remaining. Okay, let's write the word remaining here. And also, I'm thinking probably we should add a new line here and here. So they basically print on different lines. So let's actually see if that improved anything. So welcome to the game. You have 5 tries remaining. Let's try the value 1. And now it says your guess is too low. You have 4 tries remaining. Okay, I think I didn't actually need the new line, because you would have printed a new line anyway. So it now created a space. I'll probably take that away. But let's say now I'm going to go 10. And your guess is too high. You have 3 tries remaining. And now I'm going to go, let's say, 5, and I have 2 tries remaining, and then I go 6, and it says, well done, you guess my number in 4 tries. So the game is largely finished, but you need to test it and debug it. You need to cover as many different scenarios as possible to uncover issues that you might have. And one issue that I uncovered via testing is, what if we fail to guess the right number? So we need to guess 50, but let's say I keep guessing 1. So your guess is too low. You have 4 tries, 3 tries, 2 tries, 1 try. And now I only have 1 try, I go 1, and now I have this issue that it says you have 0 tries remaining. Sorry, you ran out of guesses. That's a little bit clumsy because the fact that I ran out of guesses means that I do have 0 tries remaining. So these lines essentially repeat. So pause the video now and think how you're going to avoid that. So if I've run out of guesses, I don't want this line to appear anymore. Obviously, I've lost the game. I know I've got 0 tries remaining, so I only want, sorry, you ran out of guesses to appear. So pause the video, try to fix that, then come back for the solution. And the solution will obviously involve an if statement before the print line. So we're going to indent the print line, and we're going to have an if statement which says, if the guess count is less than the max guess count. So in other words, if we haven't lost the game yet, then print this. But obviously, if we have lost the game in any event, we will have to exit the while loop, and then we will be printing, sorry, you ran out of guesses, because the Boolean flag will be set to false. Okay, that's the theory anyway. Sometimes theory and practice do not marry, so let's give it a try. So the number is 66, but I'm going to keep guessing incorrectly. Here I've got 1 try remaining, and now your guess is too low. Sorry, you ran out of guesses. Okay, pretty challenging game if you're making baby steps in programming, but just like the Fizzbuzz challenge, this is a classical challenge that you need to get your hands dirty if you want to get better at logic and programming. So, if you found the challenge tough today, don't worry, the video is here for you to come back and watch again. But really, the best way to learn is to now go ahead and try to build a model entirely on your own, let it sleep a couple of days, then come back clean sheet and build the number guessing game from the ground up. I hope you enjoyed this video, my friends, and I hope to see you in the next module. Until then, have a great day.